Alright, so let's save this here. Alright, I'm here for the top 8. This will be the very first round of top 8 against the first seed. Alright, so we are ready for this here. Don't know if we're ready to start yet or not. But I am awaiting. Okay, so I go first, which is huge for us. Given the matchup that we're playing. This hand is okay. But not amazing. I think we mulligan these two. The Mini Surfer is really good on the play here. Okay, so we get rid of this, and I am going to play the Olaf, and then say go. Oh no, what happened to my stream? My offline? What happened? Oh no, it's live. It's fine. We good, we good. Okay, I'm going to get rid of Maui here. Quest and pass. I think I'm getting rid of the snake here. I'm going to play the Surfer, quest, and pass. Okay, so far so good with this round, anyway. Alright, so his first play is Arthur. I'm debating on whether or not I keep this Teeth and Ambitions. It is a good way of interacting with the combo. But I'd really like to race here is the ideal. I think I inked the Teeth and Ambitions here awkwardly. Given that they played Arthur as their 3-drop, I think we do this to play Rabbit and then just pass. Like, I don't even know if we're going to do anything other than just turn shit sideways. Like, I want to get as much lore as possible here, I think. But we do have the Fox that we can challenge the Arthur if they don't untap it and they do choose to attack with it, which is good for us. Just realized I talked a little too much yesterday, so my throat hurts a bit. Oh, he plays Rabbit and just leaves an Arthur undefended. I definitely think that means I'm supposed to quest for 4 here. Fox the Merlin and hit the Arthur and then play another 1-drop, probably. I think we do that. I'm probably supposed to play the Olaf. I'm debating on whether or not I keep the second Teeth and Ambitions. Over something like the Maleficent, I guess. You know what? I think I don't need the Friends on the other side here. No, maybe I do want the Friends on the other side. I don't think I need the Teeth and Ambitions here. I think I want this and pass. I want this to be able to draw into goats. Like, I'm basically just trying to get as much lore as possible to get to the goat range, because their deck is a lot faster than mine in general. I have a lot of late game cards versus early game cards, so the fact that I managed to be on the play here, which was very fortuitous, and that I have the Surfer helps a lot here. Thanks, Octavius. Thanks for the follow. So I have the Rabbit here, but I'm considering doing Maleficent Friends on the other side next turn. The Maui is really unfortunate here, actually. The Rat is playing an RP control deck that's based on, like, Arthur. I could kill the Maui here, actually, as well. And then play out the Maleficent. Yeah, I know about Tremaine. Like, I want to remove this and then play out another thing. Because I want to keep questing here. We're questing with this for sure. I could just ignore the Maui. And then just not quest with the Olaf. That's a possibility too. I like the Olaf for protection against needing to ink it. Maybe I play the Maleficent out. I ink this. No, I ink this. And then I draw 2 cards. And then I say go, so that the Tremaine doesn't bully me here unnecessarily. I don't know if that was the best line, but I think it'll be fine. We still have another full turn of being able to have them set up for B-Prep here. So we can get quite a bit more, but we have a lot of card draw to close, which I think is important. This puts us at 15. 15 is pretty good. Yeah, this makes them blast their Maui instead of being able to just Tremaine our stuff. Like, I'm probably going to quest with all of these next turn, and then play, like, a Merlin and a Kuzco. I assume that they're bouncing Rabbit. If they bounce Maui here, I think that's actually okay. Yeah, I think that's okay. I think we're gonna do, like, this. We're gonna Merlin Rabbit here. It's a great draw. We're gonna play a Kuzco, and I'm gonna ink another Kuzco here, because we're gonna get 2 draws off of this anyway. Because then this is gonna draw us additional cards if he B-preps here. And it doesn't allow them to just, like, attack into these and then not have to prep. But if they opt to B-prep here, that's fine. I can follow it up with, like, a Rabbit and a Goat, potentially. Obviously, I don't want to be super weak just to Tremaine only. But that's why we have the extra card draw here. I've changed my plan a little bit. I have not changed my plan very much. I think I'm just not going to ink anything additional. And I'm going to play Goat plus Mini here. And then just say go. His problem is that he's choked on resources here, because he only has so much ink. So you can only really do one thing a turn. If that one thing is B-Prep or Tremaine, like, it just doesn't do anything. Like, I can just blast the goat here. And then I get them with the other mini. Yeah. He just has to hope that I don't have a goat, which I do here, so... Okay. So that's game one. I am checking to see if we need to wait to start game two before I kick it off. Okay, I'm just gonna get in. I did go first in game one. With this hand, I don't need two of these for sure, or the goat. Okay, this hand is pretty good. I'm gonna get rid of Maui to play the Olaf. I'm likely getting rid of a snake to play the other snake so that that sets up our turn 3. Especially on the draw, the fidget is really important here. If they play Surfer on 3, then I'll probably play Fidget. If they don't, I'll play a Surfer of our own. Obid and Don, appreciate the follows. Alright, so we'll ink the snake. We'll quest here. Play the snake, bounce this, and pass. If we don't have to ink the Olaf, I will probably try to hold it, but it seems unlikely that that will be an option for us. There's not really any other card that I can mulligan here is the problem. Oh, in the mulligan. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Given that we drew Kuzco, I think I'm gonna bin the Kuzco first here. I'm gonna play Fidget, and I think this trade is actually fine. I'm debating on this trade here, and whether or not I should be the one questing or the one I should be trying to block here because we're the ones on the draw. I think the trade is what I want to do, because we're a little bit behind because we're on the draw. And I think I should have a better late game with the Ursulas. Yeah, our opener was okay. So we do get to bully the mini here, which is nice. They might untap it yet. But I would think that if they had the ability to untap it, they would have quested with it first and then untapped it. I guess if they need to sing to draw the cards for ink. Okay, so he does untap it. Yeah, maybe because we can mulligan into garbage like this, just keeping the inkables would have been stronger there, but just making sure that we had the ink. Do we quest here or do we draw two just because of the way that our hand is? I almost kind of want to draw two here. Well, that'll do. I think we play this. I weirdly think I'm supposed to get rid of this fox to play the Olaf. Or maybe we bin the Olaf and we... Like, because the Olaf really isn't doing anything except being Tremaine protection. Like, I want to play this other Surfer. I don't know when we're going to be playing that fox anytime soon. And I kind of want to have this Olaf in for protection against turn 6 Tremaine. The fact that he hasn't really gotten to draw a lot of cards this game yet. It is a good uncontestable singer. If they decide to crab in this spot too, it ends up really not being that amazing. Though if he just like keeps slamming LeFaux, that can be tricky for us. If they go Snake, LeFaux, LeFou, and bounce it and replay it, like that can be rough for us as well. It does make the fox live, that's true, but we kind of had to ink it, so they choose to protect here. Not having an inkable here is really bad. Is this being an inkable better than the 2 lore that it's going to get before they B-prep? Oh, man. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, actually. Because now we just don't have an option. I mean, this is pretty obvious either way. So if he inks to 6, he can play Tremaine. And then if he B-preps, I think I'm just going to try to race. Like, he just hasn't had any card draw either. And we can try to race. And if we get majorly blown out, we get majorly blown out. My only worry is that, like, we get B-prepped in a couple of turns and we miss a few more inks, and then we can't really play anything for a while because of Tremaine's. But if we're able to play ink for a few turns in a row, it may be fine anyway, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see. I think this is a really risky spot. The race forces a B-prep. I mean, the Tremaine is really bad for us because it pulls material off the board while simultaneously making future Tremaines a little bit better, but also like their race is a little bit stronger. But we'll see. Maybe it'll be fine. If they do have B prep, it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like, they go to 12 if they have the ink plus B prep. If they play a second Tremaine, that's not good for us. So they go to 12, and then they're lethal the turn after. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I can't actually race here, because we go to 13 and then 17. I have to keep Fidget. Like, I have to keep Fidget, and I have to kill the mini with Fidget, and then I also have to hit an Inkable. Oh, God. I think we're just dead then. Fuck. Alright. That's unfortunate. That is really unfortunate. Alright. I'll take the play in game 3. Okay. We are 1-1. The Fidget is good. A Maui is good. Like, we can't really be bullied like that again. That's just not a good idea. But what if we do this? Okay, not the fastest hand I've ever seen in my life, but it should be okay, because at least we have rabbits this time. I think we lead on the Surfer, and then we play the Fidget anyway. That's not great. Okay. Yeah, we're just gonna have to ink all the way up to turn 4. I guess it is the Fox. Do I have to keep the Fox so that I can bounce the rabbit on 5? I just don't think the way that our draw is that we can race here. Ugh. Thanks, I hate it. I'm just not in a position to race. I think I have to play Fidget because it is good against Surfers, and then I think we try to hold the Fox if we can. Maybe bounce Fidget and then ink it. That's potential if we miss as well. Like, ideally we get another inkable, but if we don't, we'll take the measures that we have to. I think I can just ink the second Fidget here and play Rabbit instead. I really like having Fidget, but that was a good draw for us, because we really need these Rabbit to draw a better card than that, but it's fine. We have 2 draws next turn to get an Inkable. At this point, our game plan is just trying to play for a couple of turns, more so than anything else, because we are in a desperate spot. We are in a very desperate spot. I should have kept more Inkables. Changing my mulligan strategy this late, I think, has been costly here. Like, trying to be a little bit faster has not necessarily worked out in our favor. Because I think normally I would have kept maybe one more thing. Okay, so I think we have to kill both of those. But that's fine. So we hit this. We Fox. Draw a card. It's actually interesting because it gives us next turn of Mim, Fox, Mim. If we ink the Fox. Or sorry, Rabbit, Fox, Rabbit. This right here. No more Fox, only Snake. We could put the Fox back in our hand, but I think I'd rather try to get the draw, because our hand literally doesn't unlock until 7. Like, it just is unplayable if we miss ink to, you know, if we have to ink the Rabbit. If I have to ink the Snake, I will. But we need to play this Rabbit next turn, and if we get an Inkable, then we can also bounce it with this, because we need two more ink, not just one. So he bounces Olaf. Plays a LaFoe. And a Surfer. I think this is an interesting turn for them to play the Surfer here for sure. Because they know that they can get the 2 lore out of it to go to 14 before I can be prep. I hate it. I hate this draw. Like, this draw just loses to triple goat. If they don't tap the Arthur, certainly I could leave it in play, but most likely they're gonna attack with the Arthur. I guess, yeah, maybe they don't. We'll see what they do, I suppose. That really determines what our play is going to do here. It is entirely dependent on our opponent in this spot. Like, if they don't untap Arthur, or they don't quest with the mini, I think we... I don't actually have to be prep here then. I can play Ursula here. And actually draw 2 cards. I think I hit Arthur Mini. I think I draw 2 cards here. I could Tremaine the Rabbit too. I think the Ursula's better this turn. And I actually think I have to ink the goat in this spot so that I can set up like Ursula plus Cusco. In a few turns. It's like if their plan is to be prepared here, I don't know if that really does anything. Because we have follow-ups to that. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I mean, the plan B is just goats. That's certainly true. Okay, we play out a rabbit. I play out a Maleficent. I don't think it's Mal Cusco, because I think I'm supposed to ink one of the Mals. And try to hold the Cuscos to pair with these. The Mal Cusco could have been interesting just because it would have let me be prep here more safely. Or, sorry, I would have drawn more cards, but I do think that I need to draw cards here and I need to be prepared in this spot. I can't let him get free lore out of this. I think I'm going to do this. That is such a card. Okay. That is a new plan. Okay, new plan. Okay, so now this lets us sing Be Prepared, play Ursula Cusco. Which I think is the line. Alternatively, we go to 10. I don't think going to 10 makes sense. I think it's sing Be Prep. Ursula Cusco. Do they have anything that Teeth is good against? I don't think so. LaFeu? Mal? Maybe we keep that for now. So here's Ursula. Well, let's see what we draw off of Ursula first. Maybe Mal is better than Cusco here. So I really would like to ink still. We can ink one of these Cuscos, I think. And then just play Mal and hold the other one. We can Fox or Mim the Ursula here. To reset it. So they B-prepped once already. Unfortunately, they have a lot of cards in their hand, so they're getting closer and closer to goats. But in theory, if we can start making them do that and then do Tremaine lines against them, I know that he can't double Tremaine. He played 2 rabbits. Or 3 rabbits, rather. So this is why I decided to keep the teeth, because now I can Tremaine the Maleficent, and then... So I can blast this and then Tremaine this one. Do I need to put a card in... Like, okay, if he Maui's my Ursula, is that terrible for me? We're gonna go to 10, 11, and then this will, in theory, still be around, and then... I can do this. So I can Olaf. Teeth. Tremaine. We can quest. I'm debating if I snake one of these back. Whether it's the Ursula or the Tremaine. I think I want the Ursula back in my hand over the Tremaine. This forces them to BP anyway. Like, he can't let me do 2, 3, 4, 5. So I think this is fine. Even if it's lethal, he has so many cards in hand that he almost certainly has a Be Prepared. And this forces them to use it. They had used 1 up to that point. And they're almost effectively out of card draw here. But their hand could still have more Be Prepareds. I think they're considering playing out a LaFa. Just to have some threat on the board, which I think is reasonable. Ursula into... So the problem is that I don't want to overplay into... Be Prepared, but I also don't want to overplay into Tremaine. If they double Tremaine, we just have a Be Prepared. That's like half their hand and their whole turn. So I think I'm okay with that, weirdly. Like, I think it's this into Olaf, and then I don't ink here. This still essentially forces a B-Prep or double Tremaine. Double Tremaine just time walks them into Be Prepared, I think. It's not amazing for us, but if we run them out of Be Prepareds, then we can just bully them with our bigger cards. And there's no Ursulas or Elsa here. So it's either they Be Prepared to take care of the Ursula, or they double Tremaine, which uses a lot of their resources. There's no spellbooks in their list. They are effectively out of card draw. So that's 1 Tremaine. Yeah, we have dragons as well that we haven't used. Okay, so they won Tremaine. That is not going to be good enough. In this spot here, I don't think. They are not on dragon, I don't believe. I think 7, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so we're questing here for sure. And then I'm going to replay it with the fox. And then I'm thinking about killing the LeFou here. And then replaying the snake, because I don't think that we need the surfer here. No, because if I snake it back, then the fox is still in our hand. I think that's what I want to do. I should have played Ursula first to see if we had a better inkable. Oh, that's a great one. Okay, I think we hit here. I play snake, I bounce this, and then I say go. This is what we want to be doing, is we're draining the lore to get them further and further from goat being a successful hit here. I need one more turn of questing with what we have, and then we can close. Even if it's just Ursula alone. Okay, so there's a B prep plus a 3-drop. Arthur would be the worst one, probably. But we can play Elsa and a thing. So they have one Be Prepared left, and their hand is Tremaine and some other cards. So we have a couple of choices. Do we have enough to do 8, 11? No, we would need 14 to do Fox to kill the Arthur. But I can do this. Hit the Arthur. And then I can just play the mini. And then say go. I acknowledge that we need 3 lore from Elsa, but if they double Tremaine here, we just get to Be Prepared. And then that takes out 2 of their Tremaines as well. If they even know about the double Tremaine line, I think that's what they're doing now. I don't know if they wanted to do it earlier, because it didn't leave them in an awesome position, because it sort of just taps them out. I would assume that they have double Tremaine, but their concern is that if they do this, it runs them out of all their cards, because it plays directly into a Be Prepared. And there's not really much that they can do about that. But if they let me quest here, then it's over. Shit. Double Tremaine costs 10. Shift 10. Okay, so we quest. We goat. We mim fox. We goat. What a fucking battle. What a fucking battle. Damn. That is crazy. That is crazy. My heart rate is like 1,000. I don't think this matchup is necessarily as bad as it seems. Let me bring up the deck list. I can talk about it a little bit. Where is it? Somewhere. Here. So here's the deck list that they were playing. Yeah, Ursula was doing real good. We played Ursula, what, 4 or 5 times? That's a lot of ink, but the Elsas were very good there. So here's the list that they're playing. So they have the 4B Preps and the Friends on the other side. They have the Tremaines, the Mims. They have the LeFou plus Arthur package in here. This is sort of their lower to the ground stuff. They have the Surfers. Like, it's pretty standard as far as, like, 7 1-drops, some Yzmas, the Goats, and some Crabs, right? But what this means is that they don't really have any true late-game stuff. So if you can slow it down, then that helps a lot. Ursula is pretty good, and being able to sing Ursula helps a lot. I think in that last game, our decision to... I can bring up my deck too. I actually don't mind their layout visually. Where is that one? Here. Yeah, turn 6 I think was where they made a mistake. Assuming that I was forced to B-prep there was a pretty big cost. The fact that I could play an Ursula and just, like, beat their stuff to death with my stuff meant that we stole the entirety of the tempo for the whole game. Like, they had the tempo the whole time because we were forced to play a really awkward draw of, like, you know, inking a Surfer because we needed ink. They were assuming that I was forced to B-prep in that spot. So then you quest to try and get some lore out of it, right? But because I had the Fidget in play, and because I had the, like the snake that I had played from Bouncing the Rabbit, and I had enough power on board to interact with their cards, I don't care about a single rabbit. This drains a lore, so them questing with one rabbit doesn't really stop what's happening. And this puts so much pressure on the board that it switched the tempo from us needing to be prepared to them needing to be prepared. But if they had... Essentially, if they had commit more to the board by replaying the LeFou and untapping the Arthur, we would have had to be prepared there, most likely. Because it was way too much pressure for us to deal with. I think that was the pivotal turn that gave us a chance to claw back. Because if you noticed, we had to play a lot of Ursulas to get the lore back. We had to really turn the game into a game of, here's 2 threats or 3 threats. We can interact with what you're doing. You have to interact with what we're doing. And the Elsas were pivotal there as well. The turn that we drew the Elsa off of the draw 2 cards to be able to tap their 2 things and force a B-prep instead of... Or, sorry, tap their 2 things and then allow us to sing the B-prep. Those were 2 massive tempo swings. And what I mean by tempo is every time that they B-prepped, that was essentially their entire turn. Right? So they're B-prepping and not singing it, that's their whole turn. The times where we B-prepped, it was with, you know, maybe with Ursula, or maybe with Elsa to sing it. Like, those spots were huge for us. Super huge. Singing B-prep off the Elsa was awesome there. You know, and then being able to play the Ursulas, not only does it draw us a card, but it also kept them down lore. That was like 4 or 5 lore that the Ursulas were able to claw back for us, which makes it so that the Goat, like, the way that that deck closes is the same way that it did to us in round 8, where they play Goat, and then they mim it, and then they Goat it again. You know, that gives them 7 lore, 8 lore if we try to remove the Goat. You know, and it only really requires a couple of cards. But because we're keeping them too far away from that, they can't afford to take an entire turn off to gain 3 lore or whatever, when we can just be gaining 4 or 5 lore with the Ursula and then do that ourselves. So we were able to turn a very interesting corner because of that turn 6, and because of the turn where we were able to Elsa. So, damn. That was sweet. That was a good game, though. Even though our game 2 was a little awkward because we missed on our uninkables, I think that was pretty good. Yeah, I'll appreciate the follow. Ugh. I don't know if we have our game anytime soon here. Let me look. Yeah, they want us to wait. So basically, they're trying to cast as much of the games as they can. And the way that they're doing that is they're staggering the rounds a little bit. Yeah. Why would WoG with a bunch of dots? Weird. But yeah, the fact that you can sing the Be Prepared is very huge there. I mean, obviously you have to be running something like Ursula or Elsa or Maleficent Dragon to do that, but... Yeah, they staggered the games, so tables 1 and 2 started playing right away, and then tables 3 and 4 did not start yet. Or they have started now, I think. Well, either way, we have to wait a little bit. So, Dragonfire, the problem with Dragonfire is that it's uninkable. So let's bring up the deck and let's talk about the choices for the deck overall. Because we have a bit of time, so we can do that. Can we see everything? Yeah, pretty much. I do like this view for talking about the cards versus the other one because I don't have to scroll. So, we only really have room in this deck for 16, maybe 17 uninkables overall. So, basically, we got 4 Be Prepareds, 4 Rabbits, right? Those are both, I would say, pretty necessary for this deck. I would never run less than 4 Be Prepareds, and I personally would never run less than 4 Rabbits. I think this is one of the best cards in the whole deck because it draws so many cards. It's awesome. I can understand why people shave it because there are only so many uninkable slots, but that's why I like Rabbit personally, is because it is so strong. Okay, so then that's half of our uninkables. I think that Ursula is amazing in this deck, and that game was a good reason as to why, because it's able to do a lot of different things. It can sing Be Prepared, it drains lore, quests for 3, it has an 8-butt, which is very good against all the steel decks, and it also draws a card and replaces itself, similar to Maleficent 3, similar to the Cusco when it dies, the Rabbit, you know, Friends on the Other Side. Most of our cards, even the Snake and the Fox, are essentially drawing a card when they come into play because you're bouncing a card back to your hand. So a lot of our cards, they replace themselves, which is very useful when you're trying to get to, you know, 12, 13, 15, 14 ink. You need your cards to replace themselves, otherwise you're not putting things on the board while also like advancing your board state. And, you know, drawing your cards, advancing your ink. So you need all those pieces to kind of be working together. But Ursula being able to sing Be Prepared is why I want 4 of those. Then that leaves us with 4 uninkables available. So I think given that some of the steel decks, like the purple steel deck, has been running so many Elsas, I think some amount of Elsa is kind of necessary in this meta to be able to break that like tempo loss that happens when you're like, oh, I play Ursula, and then they just Elsa your Ursula. Well, now, do you just B-prep your own Ursula? You can't sing it. Like, you lose the ability to gain that back. So, I think that the 2 Elsa is a good number. I tried 3, and I think 3 is also good, but it can be a little cloggy against decks like this, right? And again, there's also only so many uninkables that you can run. Lady Tremaine is another card that is very strong in a deck like this, because you can bounce it, you can replay the effect, and it's similar to Maleficent Dragon, except it's uninkable. But it's a lot cheaper, right, being 3. It allows you to deal with ward characters, Cusco, and things like that. but I don't think having one makes sense at all. One doesn't really work that well, because if you watched all of the other games that I played, and I've put them on YouTube, or you can find them in the VODs as well, but we had a few games where we would say, play a Tremaine, our opponent would do something, we would shift the Tremaine, and then we could bounce both Tremaines back to our hand. So then all of a sudden, we now have 2 more Tremaines in our hand against what our opponent is doing. That is way better than Dragonfire. That being said, I think that there are some spots where the Lady Tremaine is, in theory, worse than Dragonfire. Sometimes your opponent plays a couple things and then a Sad Beast. Well, Lady Tremaine can't really deal with it. It leaves you up to being Be Prepared, or they make it weak to Maui. We have the Ursulas, so I don't think I'm as worried about that the steel matchups because of that. But it is something that the Dragonfire does have the ability to interact with. But I think that 2 Tremaines, 2 Elsas is a good split with the way that the deck has played. Because sometimes the Tremaines will just be in your hand. You'll have 2 of them. You have, 12 ink. You can do double Tremaine, or you can do Tremaine, shift Tremaine, bounce them back with Snake or whatever, and just gives you a little bit more flexibility than something like just a Maleficent can do. So, let's talk about some of the tech pieces in the deck here as well. Alright, so we have 6 1-drops. They're all 1/3s. They could be minis, they could be Olafs, it could be a different split, it doesn't matter. We have 6 of these. And then we have the 3 Kuzcos, which, some of the decks have been running just 7 1-drops, some of them run 8. I like the Kuzcos because it gives us another card that we can pair with Ursula to play around something like Tremaine, which we did quite a bit this game. It gives you something else to do if you don't have a 1-drop as well on turn 2. Maybe you are against a known matchup that the 1-drop isn't very valuable, but the ink is, say, discard. So you ink your 1-drop, and then you just play your Kuzco, because Kuzco is good against the discard deck as well, because it is always going to draw you a card and replace itself eventually, but it can put on pressure similar to like a Grammatala, where they don't always want to kill it, because it just gives you value when they kill it, and they waste their turn challenging it or whatever to deal with it, and you just still get the value out of it. We still have the 1-drops for Snake. Like, this is still a good line. We have the 1-drops because they do pair okay with Teeth and Ambitions. We often will try to keep one of these late game to pair with an Ursula on 8, assuming that they're playing Lady Tremaines, etc., just because we do need that protection as well. Like, Kuzco is the best protection because it just draws us a card. If they manage to fully blow out the Kuzco and Ursula, like, your fail case is that you still drew a card. So it's very good there. Again, being able to replace itself following sort of that same logic of the Maleficent and the rabbits and such. So, I shaved the Teeth and Ambitions because Teeth is good in matchups where it's really good, and it's really pretty terrible when it's terrible. The fact that you have to blast one of your own cards with it really is unfortunate. Obviously, it is good against Fidget, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But the Teeth in certain matchups is just very powerful. So we shaved it down 1 because we still want them in the deck. Sometimes you have to combine them with, we saw a spot where we used the Teeth to blast Maleficent so that we could get away with Tremaining instead of needing to be prep or whatever. So, like, there is still some value with it because there are some targets in these decks. So let's look at our Surfer tech here. So in a lot of decks, this is like 2 crabs, right? In previous decks that we've played, this may have been just double crab. But crab requires, in order for you to deal with Surfer Mini, that you also have a Surfer Mini. But this card is already so good in the mirror, just by default, it's so good in the mirror, that like, if we have these, or 1 or 2 of them, we're already in an okay spot anyway. Even to the point where we can race sometimes, right? But if we don't have this and we have Crab, it's useless. But this is a sort of self-contained answer on the draw to a Surfer Mini. And since Teeth is historically pretty medium in this matchup, it does get inked a lot. This tech, once known, is a little bit worse. It is certainly a little bit worse, and I won't argue that. And it has been Teeth before. 3 Tremaines, yeah. So they're just like flooded with Tremaines, and I played around it the whole time. And if at one point they had, if they had double Tremained on 10 and we just be prepared that, like, what's the plan then? You know, then all of a sudden we just replay 2 threats and then the Tremaine is medium again. Yeah, we can talk about Maui here as well. Let me snooze the ad so that we get a little bit more time. So I think the slot that Maui occupies is sort of the same slot that the Maleficent Dragon occupies, and maybe like one of the Cuscos as well. So these are sort of this card is ink in the early game most of the time, right? Because if you see a Maleficent Dragon early, it's just ink. It's very, very straightforward, very easy. You're just like, boom, dump this in the inkwell, do something that, you know, is purple probably. Maui is just like that as well, most of the time. But because Maui costs 5 instead of 9, you can do more stuff with Maui through the mid-game. It's very good against Steel a lot of times because they, you know, just kills Beast, kills Tink. Like, if they do the shift Tink Sing to kill your 2 or 3 things that you played early, you Maui it, you clean it up, you move on with your life, right? But because Maui is in this sort of same, like, ooh, this is my big thing that I ink a lot, I feel like it is just better to have the cheaper card than the more expensive one. Because we only really ever need 1 Maleficent Dragon in our hand, and we only really need it until turn, like, when we have, like, 12 ink or whatever. So, Yzma is not a draw card. It is not a very good draw card spell. In this deck, specifically. I don't really want to be pulling material off of my board just to draw +1 card. Right? Because my Rabbit is always going to draw me a card whether I Yzma it or not. But if I'm playing Yzma, I'm removing the Rabbit from my board, or the 1-drop or whatever, just to draw a card to replace Yzma and then another card. Let me submit my results here. I gotta submit real quick here, and then we'll talk about it some more. 3 games, me, them, me, boom. Okay. Okay, so back to talking about Yzma here. So we don't need Yzma for removal realistically, because the same slot that Yzma would generally occupy is this same Maleficent and Maui slot, or in theory also the Cusco, right? Because it is another thing that generally gets inked early, but is okay later, right? In the Steel deck, like in something like this, I think Yzma is awesome here, right? We have the Blue Fairy. You know, sometimes we just want that extra card draw, and because this is more of a tempo-oriented deck, because a lot of our songs are cheaper, we're okay with, say, shuffling back in our Rabbit and drawing a bunch more cards. The discard player did not make it. Zero ended up losing out because of breakers. They also went. They lost one of their last 2 rounds, so they missed out on breakers. They were 7-2 as well. Oh, okay. Alright. So, Baby Tremaine suffers from the same problem that most of the other, like, Dragonfire and stuff. It's just uninkable. It is, I believe, all purple and ruby except for 1. Which is Blue Steel, I think. I can bring it up here, actually. It should be under just decks. If you go to decks, they're all public now. So it's... I can't actually see it, but I assume that if I click into it, yeah, it's RP into RP with 4 teeth. This is another Arthur list. Arthur with the Pinocchios. And then this is, I assume, just standard Jund. Yeah, it is. This is... No, I'm not, I believe. And then the other Arthur list, and then there's a blue steel deck that managed to sneak in. There's another... This looks like a pretty standard Pan's Shadow list. Running 2 spellbooks. Jeez, where are they finding room for all these uninkables? 6, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 uninkables. Okay. Arthur's just more of an aggressive deck. I prefer the control-y version versus the aggro version, personally. Oh, this is... Hey, this is basically my deck. This is garbage. Get the fuck out of here with this shit. It's Thief. Thief in the night. They opted for a different ratio of these, and they added 2 spellbooks. Are they on more uninkables? They did have fidgets, though. That's interesting. 4, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So this is a 17. A 17 uninkable list as well. With an extra 1-drop. What are they not playing that's uninkable? Or that is inkable? They shaved a Maleficent for a 1-drop. Interesting. I don't think, when you're playing 4 Ursulas, I don't think that you actually need Spellbook, because the Spellbook is only really good... Again, it's another uninkable, and it's only good against the mirror, specifically. And it's not even that overwhelming in the mirror. Like, it's good in the mirror, but it's not, like, overwhelming. Yeah, I could see adding another way of interacting with flying, like a Goofy or something. For sure. Yeah, they beat us in the round 8. When we were 7-0, they beat us in some close games. I was playing the matchup wrong because I didn't know their deck list. Like, I was undervaluing Fidget in that matchup because they don't really have any way to remove it in their deck. So Fidget was increasingly very valuable against them. Like, after I had the deck list, I knew that Fidget was pretty safe to just run out, and it just defeats minis entirely. And then the game plan changed, which is why my mulligan decisions were a little bit different as well. Like, knowing what they're playing matters. I could definitely see Fidget being less good once it's a more known quantity as well. Like, once people know that Fidget is a thing that you can be doing, then they will likely keep Teeth more frequently. Like, if we end up playing against Aaron again, I will try to keep a Teeth to combat Fidgets, right? It's interesting that they're playing both Crab and Fidget. What did they cut out of this list to be able to run... Oh, they have no dragons. So they cut dragons for crabs. Yeah. I don't know if I like that. Cutting a Maui and a dragon, like, it makes their deck a lot more aggressive. And in theory better against Surfer Mini, because they have both the crabs and the Fidget. But it makes their late game a little weird. I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter, because they still have the Ursulas and the Elsas and a bunch of Tremaines. But as long as we're playing around Tremaine, I don't think it should be as big of a deal. I'll have to look at the... this thing. I can see who has won already. So Aaron did win that one. I see the bracket. Round 2... How would I see that? Standings, I guess? So Aaron was 5th. So don't know if I will fight them until the finals then, because I am 8th, so we're in the same half. But it looks like Fidget so far is reigning supreme at this point. Who did they defeat? Hope it wasn't the Steel player. That would be tragic. No, it was not. It was this list. Yeah, I should be playing the winner of 2-7. So this was a Pinocchio. This looks like a little bit of an older Pinocchio list, like from the Pinocchio Crabs. It's playing a very light uninkable count. No, I guess they have the full Tremaine set. This is 4, 8, 12 from the Rabbits. Yeah, so this is 16 uninkables. But it's playing around the aggressive a little bit more. Yeah, I'm Jeebus the White. I'm here to cleanse us of the rat. They had a really sick run, though. Going 9-0 is pretty insane. Like, you don't see that a lot in tournaments, because generally, if there is intentionally drawing available, you know, if I was 7-0, I probably would have... At 7-0, we probably would have drawn. Whether we play out the last round or not, I think it guarantees that we're in then. To the top 8. Yeah, so this list is a little bit vulnerable as well to Fidget if they don't keep Teeth and Ambitions, right? So, and the Pinocchio is not a real card in this matchup. So their late game, like, Spellbook is fine, but Ursula just, like, destroys Spellbook overall. Because, as I've talked about before with Ursula versus Spellbook, so if I play Ursula, I'm drawing a card, it drains a lore, and then it can quest for 3. So if Ursula ever quests a single time, it is the equivalent of 4 Spellbook activations. Which means that it costs the same, but I have an Ursula in play and not a Spellbook, right? Obviously it has to quest, but this can sing Be Prepared. This also drew me a card. I think that Spellbook, in certain matchups, like even certain RP matchups, you can get into a spot where your opponent just has, like, Be Prepareds and Lady Tremaines and Maleficents, and they got the Mauis and stuff, and they have, like, one Spellbook in play, and they just sort of control you out of the game, and they use it to drain you over the course of many turns. But as long as you don't let them get too much lore early, the Spellbooks really don't do as much as, just say, a Goat even on its own. And they're uninkable, so they take up one of those really important uninkable slots. You know, if your opponent is only presenting a 1 lore gain per turn threat while they have to blow up your whole world, I should be playing as 4-5. Oh, so then I will be playing the mirror again. That's really unfortunate. Those are my 2 losses in the Swiss. It's fine. Okay, so Tentacle Sushi, yeah. Yeah, I really like it being sort of an Ursula control deck as opposed to just a bounce deck, because I find that the Ursula is key to this metagame right now. Like, I think it's very strong. So let's look at some of the other sort of matchups while we have the time. So it should be... Well, I want to know where the Steel deck is. That's Matthew. So that's 3rd seed, so they should be playing against 6th. Did they report already? No. That's this one. That's table 4. That doesn't sound right. Oh no, yeah, that would be table 4. Is this Moyen? No, this is Moyen, right? Like, my ultimate next matchup would be to fight against the blue steel player. Like, I want to fight this matchup. I would be totally fine with this. I have a lot of confidence going into this particular matchup with the deck. Because we have so many Ursulas, like... Obviously, they can... There are a non-zero amount of games that this decks like this can play, where they quill on 3, and then they just whole new world you to death, right? Ruse, appreciate the follow. And you can just draw all your be prepareds in your opener, and then they just whole new world you, and then you lose, right? Because then you don't have any catch up. But if it's a modest mix of your draws, then the whole new world just like you just don't play as much draw focused things, and you try more to do other stuff then. Yeah, if you don't have the be prepareds, like sometimes you could just lose. But that's true of every whole new world deck. If they wheel all of your B preps, like it's pretty rough. I mean, if they turbo crab, like that's the whole point of having the Tremaines and stuff. Yeah, they're not on workshop. This is just a quill. This is like an RMB special, right? Where it's meant to. You need to hit quill on 3. You kind of need to hit Cogsworth on 4, and then from there, you just wheel, and you have like 8 ink or whatever, and you're just way ahead to play things like Hades, Let It Go, Beast. You just go wide with bigger stuff, and then you eventually close with like Double Bell to just 10 them when they're not ready for it. But that's where the Be Prepared is really nice. Like, you let them do this a few times on your Ursulas, and then you just have enough ink that you can do a couple things a turn, and then it's not as big of a deal. You have not missed the finals. Just the semis is over. Or the quarters, rather. Wait. Yeah, quarters, right? Yeah, semi is top 4. Fair enough, Alice. You know what? The way that you beat the discard is you just become the discard. And then it's not as big of a problem, right? Okay, so currently the top 4 is... Oh, no, I won't be facing Aaron next turn. I'll be facing one of these two, I think. Well, I don't actually know. I have no idea how this shit works. Currently, it's just 2 fidget decks, and then There's one more Arthur deck in here, a couple of Jund, and then the blue deck. Yeah, Ward is interesting mechanically, because there's just not a lot of ways to interact with it. In set 1, Ward was pretty rare. Yes, there are actually other games being streamed. If you go to the Pixelborn Lorcana channel, you should be able to see the other ones there. I think there's actually more than one spot where they're casting it. Like, I know that on Thea's channel directly, it's being cast, but if you go directly to the Pixelborn, like, Twitch directory, here, I'll give you a link. Like, if you go here, you should be able to see the other games being covered. Okay, so we can look at the decks that are left. So it's Cal, No I'm Not, Moy, and this one. So it's this versus this one. And then whatever Moy is playing. So this is the Pan's Shadow one. Yeah, I saw that Aaron had the spellbooks. So Aaron was playing a very similar list to what I've got. Except it has... except that he added a couple spellbooks. Like, he shaved on some of the top end for a few spellbooks. It was... Oh, yeah, I guess we can bring that one up too, because that's kind of the only decks that are left, right? Not including our own. So this is the other one that's in the top 4 right now. So they have the Cusco package, but a higher density of 1-drops, probably because they're playing Crab, right? So then they can use these plus Crab to trade up a little bit in the early game. And they can also use it to play around with Tremaine a little bit more. And they're not playing like the Maleficent Dragon, but they have double Spellbook. And the same 3-teeth package. So like literally if you took the deck that we're playing, shaved a Maleficent for a 1-drop, cut an Elsa and an Ursula for the spellbooks or whatever, and then traded these out with the Maleficent Dragons, and then just added another Tremaine instead of a Maui, that's basically the deck. So it's interesting. So draw is going to be really important for what this deck is doing, like the actual draw cards themselves, because they're running so many more uninkables than us. Like, they're running 17. But they're also running one less Maleficent. But this does give them the ability sometimes to just, like, play double or triple 1-drop. And they can put a little bit more pressure early, yeah. And they do have the Fidget, so we have to be wary of, if we're going to do the Minnie Mouse Smork line, that we have to have a Fidget. So we're going to need to keep Teeth around more frequently against this matchup, especially if we've got the minis, just to interact with the Fidget. It's just something to be aware of if we end up fighting them. So matchup-wise, it is... Is it this one? Yeah. So currently, it's these two fighting each other. So it's like an Arthur deck versus a non-Arthur deck. I think this is the rematch. So I think that... No, I'm not lost to this once already in the Swiss, because this was the Arthur deck. But it's a sort of different Arthur list than before, because it's running the full 4 Teeth and Ambitions. And it has like the more aggressive Pinocchios and a little bit more top end than the other one. Not a lot more, but it has a couple of Ursulas. But it should play out pretty similarly to what we faced. Just with a little bit more of the focus on the aggression. I'm not sure yet. It is entirely possible. So Fidget as a card, for me, is one of those things that the more people that are on Fidget, the worse that it gets. Like, the more people that are aware of it and that are using this as tech. if they start, if you're trying to play around Fidget, right? So you run out this, then you try to play around Fidget by keeping teeth. It makes Fidget worse in those mirrors. So it is possible that Fidget needs to be changed to something with 3 health. Possibly in this same slot, it could literally be Jetsam, because it has the 1 extra health, and it can test the same. It just comes down 1 turn later, so it's a little bit worse on the draw. But that could be the tech that you change these to Jetsam, and maybe you run like a Goofy. Goofy being a 3/4 for the 5-drop, like maybe you shave a Maui to play it just another evasive that's a little bit bigger. I don't think Crab is where I want to be most of the time. I have not really found Crab to be consistent enough to be where I want it to be to answer a card like this. Like, I want it to be a single card solution, not requiring that I also have a Surfer, because the Surfers are already good. Like, I don't want to have to use my Crab plus one of my best cards to try and interact with one of their best cards. I'd rather just have a different card to do it. So it's possible that something like Jetsam might be worthwhile in that spot. And then you'll just have to find a way to bring them in, right? Okay, so this matchup is tricky. Certainly with... It comes down to something very similar to what we had, except because this deck is running the Teeth and Ambitions, like, the Crab is probably favored here anyway. Over the known quantity. They're also running a little bit less LaFoe, so they're not as hard in on the combo. Like, this is more of just like a mid-range deck that has a couple of... I've seen this list before, but this is sort of it has a little bit of the element of doing the combo. Yeah, I think mine is probably one of the more controlling versions of what we're playing here. Let me bring up our deck again. So if we go and look at this, so I've got more on the late game because we have the Elsas. I have generally more Ursulas and more sort of the Maui control parts. And more just draw consistency with our cards rather than playing some of the more aggressive ones. So yeah, I can see that as being a little true. This just being one of the more control versions of it. Especially because we have a bigger top end with the Elsa. Elsa tapping 2 things down can be an incredible tempo thief that we saw a lot in set 1. So this list is very interesting that that Moyen is playing, because it's really trying to leverage the Peter Pan's Shadow as the solution to like Surfer Mini, and it gives them access to a lot more evasives. So what this reads is that all of your characters with Rush, which means Maui, Mimfox, in this case the one Scar, and then this card itself, all have evasive, which, if you're familiar with Magic, that essentially gives them flying, which is what this Minnie Mouse Surfer has and why it's so good. I don't like this card for the deck that we're playing for 2 reasons. One is it's uninkable. We've talked about the uninkables quite a bit. And 2, it generally makes you play a little bit more Rush characters often. Not always, but often. Where you're trying to sort of focus on... the Scar probably wouldn't be in here without the Pan's Shadows, right? But this is a really good combo. If you already have a Pan's Shadow in play, and then you slam out a Scar, it's awesome. It looks like this deck did win... most likely, which is unfortunate. Yeah, they're playing the trade game, but also it can make it so that if you have a couple of your Rush characters, right? Let's say that you have a Fox or 2 in play, and one of these, then, or even the Scar, all of them then also still have evasive, whether they're attacking properly or whether they're questing. So then I now have to have evasive responses to them. So it makes things like Maui awkward sometimes to play against them. and some of your other like ground challengers can't always hit the Fox because it has evasive as well. So the Pan's Shadow is a very powerful card. It's uninkable, so it is something that you have to be aware of that you're adding to your deck that does fill up some of those important uninkable slots, which is why they're not playing any Tremaines. Or sorry, they're playing the Tremaines, but they're not playing the like the Elsas and those kind of cards. This deck has a lot of uninkables. I think it's 7, right? 12, 16, 17, 18... Is that 19? Wait, more? How many uninkables is this? Does this even tell us? No. This is 4, 8, 12, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 uninkables. Is that what I'm seeing here? I'm not crazy, right? Oh, so they're going to game 3. That makes sense. This is a lot of uninkables. Holy. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. That is a lot of uninkables. They also have, notably, like 10 1-drops. I guess if the line of play that they're intending on doing is like you run out the 1-drops and then you're trying to just do this to bounce them back to ink them, I guess that's fine then. But this is a lot of uninkables. I mean, I was worried about going to 17 uninkables. I thought that was a lot. 21 seems like a crazy number, but I mean, it must have been good enough throughout the tournament to be able to make top 8. So, and I'm pretty sure that they had a decent seed as well. It's 21. Because there's a Scar in here too. Because it's the full set of Merlins, Ursulas, Tremaines, and Be Prepareds, which is the 16, and then it's 2 Spellbooks and 2 Pan's Shadows, plus a Scar. Like, I would be a lot less worried against this deck about their, like, little stuff, because it's going to have to get inked a lot. Interesting. Or it just means that they're not intending on trying to get to a super high ink count either. Like, if you sort of stop your ink count at 8 or 9, you don't need as much ink then. As long as you mulligan the uninkables pretty aggressively and keep whatever inkables you have. That game plan could be fine for just trying to play kind of a smaller game than just using your evasives to gain the lore. I could see that. Like, this card is another copy of Surfer, essentially. Because it is a 2-3 with Rush, but it also has evasive, so between this and the Surfer, like, this can be a pretty aggressive plan, and then you close the Spellbooks too. Like, that is probably how they won a lot of their games in the Mirrors, would be my assumption. Yeah, it would be interesting to see how it sort of shakes out. I like Scar a lot. I don't think, without the Pan's Shadow, I'm not sure how much I love it in this deck. Unless you really need another Be Prepared type of card. Because, so, Scar to me is essentially like a Be Prepared number, number 5 through 7 or whatever, however many you think you need. When I was playing the Popsicle, like the ramp deck, it felt like Scar was very good there against a lot of the sort of Amber decks that were kind of putting some random bodies on the board. Scar comes down and it's just like hit, hit, hit. You know, you kill a Rapunzel and a couple things. You popsicle it to heal it. You can kill another thing. Because it untaps every time that it attacks, it's really good. But in general, in these matchups, it's, like, okay, because it only has the 5 toughness. So it's essentially a Maui. It's like a good 2-for-1. Unless what it's killing is, say, an Olaf and, you know, a rabbit or whatever, then it can be a 3-for-1 pretty easily. However, with the Pan Shadow, it can eat all of your flyers pretty comfortably because most of them have very low health. So there is a worry if you're playing against a deck like this. You know, if you're all in on sort of the Surfer mini plan, they can be like, okay, here's Pan Shadow, here's Scar, kill your 3 things. And it's not like Be Prepared in that it's one-sided then. And it leaves a 2-lore quester on board, which can be pretty rough to deal with. I mean, even Pan Shadow with Maui can be pretty brutal against your minis here. So it looks like they're both going to game 3, which is to be expected. Nobody is currently playing Aladdin in the top 8. The issue with Aladdin is that when it comes into play, it doesn't do anything unless you give it rush from something else. And because it doesn't do anything immediately when it comes into play, it loses out slot-wise to things that do something when they come into play. You know, generally I would think that the slot where people are playing, like Yzma, for example, or perhaps the dragon, Maleficent Dragon, that would be kind of where your Aladdins would fit. And it's hard to run Pocket Watch in a metagame that is trying to bully your spellbooks with Benjas and stuff. And blue, if they're playing Judy or whatever, they're already trying to have answers to your spellbooks if you're running them. So then playing just more items leaves you vulnerable to that as well. And if your Aladdin isn't good enough on its own to sort of compete, then it's rough. But I think the problem overall is that the little Aladdin just isn't good enough anymore. Like, draining 1 lore is just not as good as drawing a card in a lot of games. Sometimes they don't even have that lore, and sometimes you want them to have a little bit of lore for your Ursulas to be good. So then in that world, unless they're really aggressive, like if you're trying to fight an aggressive sort of, Amber aggro deck or a version of this that's really aggressive, sure, but a lot of times they don't even have their stuff untapped most of the time. I don't know. We don't really know a lot about locations on how that's going to work. It will change a lot. Supposedly the game was designed with locations in mind. So I'm curious to see what that will look like, given that we're pretty far from seeing that now. Like, we just don't know. Maybe there will be a deck that's just literally full of locations and then full of characters that can interact with, Bodyguard or whatever, so that then you're protecting your locations and those are what you use to gain lore. Or maybe there's a deck that plays just really specific locations and then your characters are strong enough on their own outside of that you're sort of on 2 different axes. It'll be interesting to see, because there's definitely going to be some aggro decks that use locations as just like a secondary thing, and there's going to be control decks that have to work around that. There's always the old adage of there's no bad threats, only bad answers, which is why these control decks, they all seem pretty similar. Their core is very similar, right? It's this, some number of these, some of this, most of this stuff, but then there's like 10 cards that it can be plus or minus that really change how the deck functions. Where it's able to try to commit in different spots, if they're trying to play towards something like Spellbook or whatever. Snap uses them a little bit differently, I think, because it plays a very different type of game. Locations in this are going to be similar to items, from what we can tell, that they have lore that you can gain, and they have a cost where you can move your characters into those locations. I don't know if you can lose access to your location if somebody else puts their characters in there. I assume that there's going to be some effect for seeing, for what the locations end up doing. Items are okay, right? So if we go look at blue, in blue we're seeing they're playing 8 items. I've played decks that have played quite a bit more. like the Popsicle deck that runs these, it runs this, sometimes it runs more of the one-drop ones. There are not an infinite amount of items, and they all... Yeah, they do kind of feel like battles from MTG, potentially. We'll have to see. I don't know. They'll be interesting once we get... We've only seen, like, a vanilla one that doesn't really do much. You might only be able to visit your own locations, yeah. There might be some other way of interacting with them where you can lose access to gaining the lore or something. We've only seen a single vanilla location. So we'll have to see what some of the... You know, if they have higher rarity ones, super rare, legendary, before we know really anything about them. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm looking forward to set 3 because I think it's going to really change this game a lot more than people think it is. But yeah, I'm not looking forward to this matchup. I do think that we have a little bit better late game, but they do have double spellbook, which can make it tricky. If we're doing this sort of battle, but they have 2 spellbooks in play, then they can easily rush us down there. And they have some of the same early game stuff that we do, so it can be a little bit tricky. They staggered the games, Carlum, so 1 and 2 started playing. 3 and 4 weren't even playing while we were battling our game. So essentially it is just taking longer because we're waiting a full round before they're finished. I think they're both in game 3 for the other 2. It is untimed, but that would be why. They're doing it for coverage, specifically, because Thea is casting the games on their channel. It's good content, right? I can understand why they're doing it, at least, even if it makes our day take a little bit. Yeah, there's 4, so 1 and 2 started at the same time, and then 3 and 4 are still battling. One of them is already... 2 of the games have already concluded. So this was the other player that we lost to in round 9. That won. And they are on a very similar list to us, using some of our tech for this event, which definitely means that the fidget feels pretty good. Though it is going to be some interesting posturing on whether or not fidget is right to sort of have in play versus whether they have a teeth in that whole business. How did I manage to get the songs in the wrong spot? Why are my songs at the top and not at the bottom? Weird. I wonder if it's how you put, like, if it's how you build your deck. And I sort of built my deck like a spaz. Yeah, it is. It is literally the order that you put the cards in, because I added these towards the end. Like, because this was basically the core of my deck from the last tournament. And the Kuzco Elsa Fidget, these are the ones that I added since the last tournament that we played in. Interesting. Interesting. So against this one, like, the spellbooks definitely give a bit of an advantage here, because a lot of the other tech is very similar in numbers. Yeah, I got a better voice, that's why my songs are right up front. They have less Mauis, and I think they have more Uninkables. 2, 6, 12, 13, 17. So they do have more Uninkables than us by a little bit, which can make some of their draws a little awkward. They are 1-1. I believe both of the other quarterfinals are 1-1 right now. So it is tied up. As again, most of these decks, regardless of the version, are pretty even. I mean, let's imagine that, for example, against No I'm Not Here, that the Arthur version is favored by 5 or 6%. That's not a huge amount. Like, that ends up being based on how the draw, like, how the game plays out, more so than anything. They're very close to just a coin flip. I mean, if we look at some of my stats for the games that we played, we're basically dead even, roughly, on this. Blue Steel beat Moyen. Okay. Interesting. That's crazy. So which deck was that one? That was the one that had 21 Uninkables in it. There's a lot of Uninkables, though, which could have contributed to it as well. That was this list. versus this. Yeah, Moyen's playing Pan Shadow with 21 Uninkables, which is just a lot to me. And there's a lot of cards in here that aren't that great in the matchup either. The Pan Shadow isn't incredible in this matchup because they don't really play any evasives. Like, this deck doesn't have any evasives at all. None of them fly. And it can't be inked. Like, that's the problem when you have this many uninkables, is that your bad cards like Pascal, Pan's Shadow, Scar, like Scar is not amazing against this deck. It's okay. But if they have a Cindy out, like Scar doesn't kill Cindy in one hit. And then, like, you look at, when you have a deck that's this many uninkables, a lot of times you have to play draw spells early. Like, okay, let's imagine that you mulligan a couple of cards, and you have to keep some that are drawing to try and fill in your ink until you can get to some of your uninkable spots, right? So one thing that can happen with a deck like this against a wheel deck, because they're playing the Whole New World, which can make them discard their hand and draw 7 cards, is if you spend your first several turns drawing cards just to hit your uninkables, then they Whole New World you. You can just draw an unplayable hand. You can draw one that's just like a bunch of uninkables. If you have like a couple of Be Prepareds in your hand and they blast that, like that's a huge problem. Generally, these decks have been playing some way of destroying items. It doesn't look like they are. They have Smash, which is also good against a lot of the cards that he's playing. A lot of the evasive ones. It's interesting that there's no Benja or interaction with items in this list. So the spellbooks could have been okay. But there's a lot of uninkables here, right? And you don't have, say, Elsa to force them to overcommit into a Be Prepared. Like, Elsa is generally pretty good against a list like this. You know, they play a Cindy and an Automatoa, you Elsa them both, they Hades back, and then you Be Prepared it. All of a sudden, that's like 3 of their big things that you're able to destroy. And usually when they're playing a lot of these bigger bombs, they're doing more in a single turn than just casting like one of these. A lot of times it'll be, say, cast Flaversham and a Hades, because they just have extra ink with the Fishbone Quill. But that's interesting that the blue steel deck won. It is a good deck, and matchup dependent. Like, you know, they still took a game off of them regardless, right? But there are some draws that, you know, you get the minis, you get the Pan Shadow, that in this case, like the Cruella is good in that spot. The Grab Your Swords, even though there's only 3, the Whole New Worlds help you dig into those. And then the Tinks plus the Grab Your Swords can make the evasives like not as relevant. And offensively, like all the smashes also do pretty well against the threats that are here, basically. You know, you can clean up a lot of the cheap stuff. You can smash this, you can smash this. They only have 1 crab for fighting up. So then their Be Prepareds are going to be pretty taxed in this matchup, if the Tremaines aren't good. And there are a lot of fodder cards in here. Your Nick Wilds, your Erics, your Mickeys. So sometimes the Tremaines are not good enough always. But it depends on the draw, of course. You know, play draw matters. Like, we don't know who went first to start it off. And then also, if they Cruella, you don't have a Teeth at all. And then, that's the deck. Are they even playing Teeth? They're not even playing Teeth at all. So those Cruellas would have just been a problem. With no Teeth, those Cruellas would have been rough. Because this just stops all of your aggression. This is the same as Fidget. Like, Cruella literally is just Fidget in this matchup. That can't freely quest, but it does give you the out directly to all of the evasives. Pascal, the Mini, the Pan Shadow. So all of the tech for the evasives just, like, doesn't do anything against a 2-drop. That's unfortunate. Bad matchup then. Or at least a bad lineup for the match. I don't necessarily think that it's always a bad matchup in general, but the way that this one is particularly constructed is unfortunate. they report? They did. Okay, interesting. So now we're down to the last one. So we can remove this deck from the pile. So these three are in the top four. And then it is come down to the Arthur versus the Jund sort of style of deck. I believe that No I'm Not has this full deck in foil, which is really cool to see. If you follow them on Twitter, you can see that. It looks really slick. Actually, I maybe even can show it. Where is it? Yeah, so they have this deck in paper, which is really cool, and in foil. Yeah, this deck is a little bit teched against steel because they have some Ursulas. And they also have a couple of crabs, which can be okay in the steel matchup. But in this spot, they are not. This is just a really consistent list that had been out for a bit, where you sort of shave a Maleficent for the crabs, and then you play not an overwhelming amount of uninkables, so your deck is a lot more consistent. This one playing the 4, 8, 12 plus the 3, because there's no spell books, so they're only playing 15 uninkables. So this deck is a lot more consistent. So they just finished, so who won here? Why are my YouTube subs still on? I thought I disabled those, but I do appreciate the YouTube subscriber. Quite a bit, actually. I assume that it is Streamlabs sending over my notifications. Well, I've seen no updates yet, so we will just wait until we get some new information. Is a YouTube thing in here, and I don't know where it is because I'm bad at streaming. That's okay. I'll find it later. And RA deck 1, yeah, that doesn't really narrow it down a ton. And that could have been just game 2 as well, because they did go to a game 3, so it could have been the other side that won. Because I know that they're on a bit of a delay. How does it even get my YouTube subs? That is a good question. I have no frickin' clue. This thing... Don't know. I'll have to fix it later. It's fine. It's fine, it's fine, it's fine. Okay. So, hey Rashi, how are you? They are in game 3 still, from what I can tell, because they have not necessarily reported it. But they're still battling, which makes sense. It is a long matchup. I would say overall that the Arthur deck is probably favored on the play a little bit. Just because there's some lines where it's like a Pinocchio that gets protected with like a Le Feu a couple of times that can quest sort of unimpeded. Like if they don't hit the 1-drop in the teeth early, that can be problematic. The play is very powerful, given that the deck, though a control deck, has something like the Mini Surfer. Some of the old lists, this was a tech that was discovered a little bit later. Some of the early lists just didn't have the Surfer Mini at all. But after, more testing and more play, it felt very good both on the play, but also just as an inkable spellbook. So then it was added in addition to spellbook, and then eventually just all of the decks are running it, because on the play sometimes you just go Surfer Mini, and then you bury them, and it's pretty brutal. So they, I think, finished up here, or they're finishing up. So they should report pretty quick here, and then we'll see what the next round looks like. I know that was 2 hours for just a single match that we played, but I hope that some of the thought processes about talking about the different decks was at least something interesting for people to look at. I don't know if this reset button refreshes this too. I assume that it does. But I don't know for sure. It looks like they haven't submit just yet. As soon as they do, they'll determine who we're going to battle. We'll look at their deck real quick. Ideally, I think it would be this. Or potentially just No I'm Not's list. Like, I think this would be an okay matchup as well. Not necessarily a great matchup overall, but just a generic mirror against a very good player, but a generic mirror overall. Whereas the Arthur deck would be challenging, because this time they have teeth, so our plan of sort of trying to just turbo them down doesn't necessarily work. And they have a little bit of a better control-y mix with, they actually have some Ursulas, and they have a bit of Yzmas. Like, they're not playing the super top end, but they're sort of more in the middle. Okay. So it looks like No I'm Not got it. Okay. So I don't know if the standings matters as much, but in theory I'm fighting against No I'm Not. But I don't actually know how it's gonna shuffle that around. I would be fine facing this in the finals as well if we get there. Or facing it now and then working towards the finals. I think we're okay into that matchup. Though I don't know for sure. But of the mirrors, I would rather try to coin flip against probably No I'm Not's list over the Arthur list. And over the one that's like the same deck as us, but with a little bit more spellbooks. Unfortunate. We are fighting against Aaron here. So notably, Aaron has the 3 teeth, a little bit more on inkables with 17, but they also do have the fidget, so we have to be aware of that for our teeth. Their late game is a little bit worse than ours, just because they don't have as many copies of these, but it makes their early game a little bit better then. And then they do have the spellbooks for late game, which, if we're doing a bunch of Ursula stuff, is fine, but if they do a bunch of Ursula stuff as well, and they have a spellbook, it can be pretty tricky. So this will be a tough matchup. We lost to them before, though it was a close game where it was 1-1 and then they triple mini surfered us, and that was not great because our draw was kind of bad. Okay, so let me minimize this here. I'm gonna grab the round. That's not it. It is this one. What is his name? Orlander. Okay, so play, custom, this. So here is our second rematch in the top 4. So this will be the quarters. Sorry, the semis. Yeah, let them learn my information. The way I figured if they really... Oh, we go second. That's unfortunate. If they really want to see my information, they can. And that's always there. So we get rid of these for sure. The Minnie Mouse is not stellar, because we're likely not going to play it. I'm just debating about this goat. I think I send the goat back too. We keep these two. If they fidget us, it's going to be real bad, so... But I think this is the plan. Or more than likely the plan, anyway. We'll hold on to this for now, just in case we have to run it to fight something, but it's likely getting ink next turn. I don't think that running it out makes sense. I would like to find a teeth. This, in combination with teeth, could be viable to deal with a fidget if they have one. But I am going to plan on trying to run these out, or at least one. And then we'll see if they respond with teeth. Our hand is very 3-drop glut. Okay, we can pass. The snake start makes a fidget not necessarily an ideal draw either. If they play surfer, it's pretty bad for us here. Okay, so they played fidget, which, since they ran out fidget, I'm less inclined to bother with these over just playing like Maleficent here. It's good for us that they ran that out early, actually, because it allows us to pivot away from it, or a little bit away from it. Obviously not completely away from it, but a little bit. They could use it to sing, which is definitely good for them. But we're going to stray a bit away from these surfers this game, because they have the fidget draw and we don't have an answer for it currently. I think I am going to use this to draw 2 cards. I don't think I want to bounce the Maleficent just to deal with the Mim. I'm trying to figure out if I want to play the goat or if I want to like play Olaf and a surfer. I could Olaf surfer. I don't think that really makes sense though. And maybe just playing the 4-drop is better here, and we hold on to the Olaf. Because the goat can just kill the rabbit if he quests with it. Which is the reason to consider that. I wanted to get the Olaf down because it can trade here, but I guess that's not even that stellar of a trade. Okay, so they play a goat as well, so they're on a much more aggressive line. than I would have liked with the way that this game has gone. Okay, so they've inked a Fox. That can be good for us, actually. We are going to need to be a little bit defensive here. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to Merlin their Rabbit. We can Merlin the Rabbit, we can Fox, bounce the Goat, and hit the Mim, and then play the Kuzco. That leaves him with just Fidget and the Goat. And then we still have a Goat in hand as well. Like, I don't love that this Merlin is here, this Goat, and we don't really have an answer to it, but I think there's not really much that we're going to be able to do in that spot anyway. I think we have to do this. If they Tremaine, then we get to draw a card. We're almost certainly going to have to be prepared this on 7, which is not ideal. And this is assuming that they play some additional things here. But this game is not going how I would like thus far. We have not had a Rabbit, which does play a big role in that. Rabbit is such a key card in these matchups that when you don't have one, it does feel like you're behind a lot. So they play another Goat. That's not great. If they Snake and bounce the Goat here, we're likely just going to get burned out. They're going to go to 12, 13, 14 already. So they're setting up to be able to just Spellbook us to death. Which makes sense, I suppose. Like, I would certainly try to do that as well against us. Because it is quite strong. I don't think we're going to be able to race with the Goat. We're probably dead to a Spellbook here, I think. The way that our draw was is a little awkward. Hitting a lot of this top end instead of a Rabbit was really unfortunate. Especially if they play like a Fox here. Yeah, that's really bad. Not being able to deal with these Goats earlier. Oh, they bounced both of them. Well, that's what I would describe as a problem. We're going to have to Ursula here, I think. We're just dead to the Goats. It doesn't matter if we Ursula. We just go next. And try to win game 3 if we win game 2. Because we know that they have double Goat in hand. So they're going to go to 17, 18 with the Goat. If we play the Ursula... I don't think we need to concede just yet. I think we can get rid of this. We can play an Ursula here. And pass. Maybe we can get there with Ursulas, but knowing that they have 2 Spellbooks in their deck makes that a little challenging. Especially with the double Goat possibility here. Well, we know that they have a double Goat, but having an extra one is going to be rough. Like, they just haven't played a lot of cards. Like, if they bounce this Goat back to their hand, it's going to be an actual disaster for us. So hopefully that is not the play, but of course they've got it all. They didn't even ink in this spot. Yeah, I don't see a way out of this. Knowing that they have 2 Goats in hand. But we play on for now. Maybe we can play enough Ursulas and Elsas to race, but I doubt it. Because we can't really wipe the board anymore. And if they just go goat, pass, then we like, yeah. We're in a spot where we have to like Elsa here. If they have 3 goats in hand, we're dead. If they have a goat and a bounce spell, we're dead. If they have a bee prepared, we're also dead. So it's not great. They inked a goat. They bee prepared. Okay. This is really awkward, because if they have... They were playing Tremaines, right? I feel like they were playing Tremaines. Yeah. I mean, I have to play Ursula no matter what here. And maybe we draw into a thing to go with it. I could bounce it back for the Tremaine to protect it. We have another Ursula. Like, we're going to have to Ursula every turn forever, I think. I'm just trying to figure out if we can afford to bounce this. If they Tremaine, then we have to answer it right away. But if they Tremaine, we have to answer it anyway. Like, no matter what, either way. Like, the Ursula isn't good enough there, because then a single goat still gets us. Can I afford to ink a goat here? I think I have to. Because I need to be able to, like, double spell. Do I have to play into Tremaine? Kind of screwed against Tremaine anyway. With Tremaine, we can, in theory, Elsa. Yeah. It's gonna have to be Elsa if they Tremaine us. Or they just kill us. Okay. So that's not great, because now a Be Prepared kills us as well. But there's not really much that we can do about that. Like, I just have to race and hope that they don't have a Be Prepared. Because I can't afford to... I can't play Ursula and then also Be Prep sing it, because like, that just doesn't work. This is game 1 of the top 4, yeah. I think it just has to be Elsa here. Tap these 2. We quest with Ursula. And then say go. If they don't have it, we can get them next turn with this. Like, exactly. If they just have more random threats... That is way worse for us than a random threat. Ah, that's fucking unfortunate. I think we're dead then. Oh, we can't pull the goat off the table without draining them for a lore. I can't deal with the mini mouse. Like, we can Elsa and tap 2 things. But then one of the other things can quest. If we had another Elsa in hand, we would still be screwed. I think we're just dead here because of the Elsa. Because there's no way for me to get anything more than 11. Yeah, I think they got us with the goat line. Man, that was really close actually. But they did have a lot of outs here. If they had this, if they had a spell book, if they had another goat, like, I think even Tremaine kills us here. Like, their 3 cards had to basically be, like, rabbits and things like that. And they're already pretty deep into their deck, so I think even an Ursula was too much, because then we'd go to 10, so this would be 6, 16. Yeah, even an Ursula was too much, so they had, like, 3, 6... 3, 6, 7... like 11 plus B prep, so they had like 14 outs here, plus the spellbook, so they had 16 outs. That's a lot of outs. Okay, fair enough. We'll go to game 2. Okay, we will go to game 2 here. Down a game. We were on the draw, though. That was a pretty close game. I think we did the best that we could to navigate it. Like, we set ourselves up in such a way that one of their last 3 cards had to be one of 16 cards, which is not amazing odds for us, right? Or, you know, so we did the best that we could with the information that we had. We did set ourselves up in such a way that we win if they missed, right? So if they have it, they have it. If they didn't, we had a shot there, but they ended up having it, so they got us. We found a rabbit this time. That's nice. I don't know if we played a rabbit at all, like the previous game. Maybe one later, but early I don't think we really did. We get rid of the B prep for sure. We can send the goat back. And maybe one of the friends on the other side. We'll keep this for ink for sure. Okay. Not a particularly fast hand, but it's fine. This will play pretty aggressively to the later turns because there's so much draw here. I'm going to snake this next turn, and then if I have to, I will just cast a Friends on the other side, and then we'll just play into rabbits. If we can pick up a 3-drop, that would be ideal. So they inked one of their goats, so that's notable. So we have a fox, so we can do the play where we go snake into fox, and then we can sing it. That's a possibility. I think I'm supposed to get rid of one of my goats here. given that we have so much card draw, and that they got rid of one of their goats, we can play a little bit towards the later game. And I'm okay with that, because we have to ink something, and we're going to ink this mini next turn. So this sets us up pretty well. If our opponent quests with this and doesn't care if we kill it, that would be interesting, but that seems unlikely, given that we played the snake here. So if we do end up foxing, it's just to put the snake back in our hand, and then we can sing the friends on the other side later. It also untaps it, which is nice. Or can be useful. I mean, when you have a 9-round event like this, the decks that give you the most choices and are the most consistent will, a lot of times, do pretty well. So this was a 9-round event, and overall the consistency was key. We could also just friends on the other side right now, instead of doing the fox play, and let them have the choice if they want to snake for snake, and then just keep the fox in our hand for now. I think that's actually fine. If they play Fidget, we'll probably dump the Surfer, but if they don't play it exactly this turn, we'll probably run out the Surfer. Maybe we still develop the Rabbit. So they Surfer of their own, which is generally pretty bad for us. Since they have both Crab and Fidgets and Teeth, I feel like we have to ignore this, which I hate, because we've done that before. I think we just play the draw, and then we plan on doing Ursula to deal with it instead, because developing the Rabbit here gives us a lot of cards to work with in the next turn or two. Like, we can go a little bit wider than what they're doing with just one mini. Hopefully they don't just have 3 of them again. Because that would be unfortunate. So they got rid of a Teeth. That's good for potentially having Fidget as an out for us. They decided to develop a Rabbit of their own. So there are some areas where we can snake next turn, potentially. I think we want to draw 2 here. We're just drawing every single copy of our friends on the other side, which is generally good. Means that I don't care as much about the redundant Rabbit. So if they decide to kill one, it doesn't matter here as much. I think I'm still in the market to get rid of this. If I had drawn Teeth, I would have wanted to play it, but since we didn't have the Teeth at all this game, it makes it really awkward. So if they opt not to fox their Rabbit here, I would be surprised. They do fox it. It's fine. They do have a fast clock on us, of course, that we're going to need to deal with, but in theory, we can find something to interact with it shortly. So they've gotten rid of a Fidget because we've inked 2 of our flyers, which makes sense. So we finally drew a Be Prepared, which is nice. We should probably deal with their Mim so that they don't get infinite free gain. If we just bash it, I don't think that does what we need. We have so many cards already. I'm wondering if what we want to do is Maui, and then potentially we get to friends on the other side with Maui next turn. Like, we Maui the Mim. That does make us a little soft to a Tremaine, but if they Tremaine, I don't really care. I almost want this Fidget for later, but I feel like it's too late. Unfortunate. So they have the line where they can Cusco our Maui, if they want. I doubt that they will, but they could. More than likely, they're just going to quest with it to go to 9. Presumably, under the assumption that we're going to have our Maui slam into it, because we've already used 3 of our friends. But there's a world where we can, like, Merlin into their Cusco and just play Ursula here as well. This is an awkward hit, though, if we play Ursula. Because then it allows them to Tremaine our Ursula for free. Well, I guess not for free. They would have to mim the Maui or whatever. I don't like walking into Tremaine with my Ursula, because then I can't sing it either, and then the mini just gets to live forever, but I don't really want to B-prep this board. Do we just leave the Cusco and let them go to 13? 13 is not a good spot for us to be. I think I ink this, and I play this first. So that I can figure out what our draw is, and then go from there. I don't need this, friends, right now. I can sing Friends on the Other Side with the Maui, and then I don't have to hit it. If I want. I'm just debating on whether or not that's what I want. I could be trading 2 cards for that. I think I'm going to have to do this. And then say go. Like, we're in a really unfortunate spot here where they can literally just, like, quest. And they don't have to commit much more to the board. They can play like a rabbit or something, and then it's really not good for us. Like, not having an answer to the Minnie Mouse, the Mini Surfer of our own, has been a bit of a disaster this game. We also haven't drawn any of our other bigger cards. We've just drawn a lot of, like, the piddly stuff. Which is okay. Like, they're probably just going to play Rabbit. They may even play Rabbit Snake. I know that they inked one of the Fidgets, but they inked it after we double inked Surfers. I also inked a Fidget. Like, most of the Fidgets are gone in this game. We needed Fidget on turn 3, not turn 6. Like, they could just be holding a Teeth, so if we play it, it's bad too. Because that's what I would be doing in this matchup. Yeah, so they inked a Surfer. It's no longer a Surfer game at this point. This has already gained 6 or 8 lore. Yeah, bouncing the Snake, that makes sense. This still forces us to B-prep. There's not really much that we can do about it. I feel like we actually have to draw 2 cards with the rabbit instead of going to 3 as well. Our hand is just super mid. That actually helps a bit. So we get to run out another Ursula. What's the ink? Fidget, probably. Then if they play another Surfer, we just like don't have an out to it at all. But it's just going to get 2 lore anyway. Could get rid of one of these goats. It's probably Cusco. I could have played Ursula first, actually. Would have given me more decisions to work with. Like, if they just slam double Spellbook here, I think we lose. I don't think we have enough. Since we don't have another Ursula, I don't think we can race double Spellbook here. Like, if they go Spellbook, Spellbook, and they have an Elsa in hand, I think we're dead. Which is a possibility. We'll see. Maybe there's a world where we just, like, start slamming goats and try to erase. It's gonna be hard, though, to win this match from this spot. Like, it may very well involve us replaying this Ursula next turn. So that's the second teeth they've gotten rid of. Double rabbit's kind of bad for us here, actually. I wonder if their plan is to double Fox our Ursula, then. They can't double Tremaine here. So I can get in for the 1 with this. Like, we can literally do this Ursula line every turn for the rest of the game if we want. It just doesn't necessarily keep up if they go too wide, and we haven't found another B-Prep or another Ursula yet, so it's a little tricky. And they probably have B-Prepareds of their own. Since they're not singing it, it does give us an advantage to be able to play stuff out after, before they get to do anything. But our hand is not really that lore dense yet to be able to keep up with, say, them playing an Elsa's follow-up or whatever. We're halfway through our deck. We've seen 1 B-Prep, 2 Ursulas, and that's it for our late game. So they go to 11, that's unsurprising. I mean, they could also just not have it, or their whole hand is goats. The goats that are left, and they're trying to plan for that. So here's an Elsa. Elsa's problematic for us without a Be Prepared, or an Elsa of our own. We don't need Fidget anymore. This is really bad. I don't think that we're alive anymore. We've drawn half our deck and we've only really seen the low end stuff. We can Fox and take out one of them. We could Teeth and take out the other one. Like, we can clear their board. Like, that's a possibility. I'm just not sure where that leaves us if they still have an Elsa in play and we don't have a Be Prepared to follow it up. We could let them go to 15. 14 if we replay the Ursula. Okay, I think that's the plan. I don't think we need the Fidget. I think it's play the Fox, bounce the Ursula, kill a rabbit. I mean, I don't love them being at 14, but I don't really see another line than this. What's this? Fox, Tremaine. Do I want to open myself up to being Tremained? If they go Merlin, Elsa, Fox, bounce the Elsa to keep it in hand, and then play Tremaine. Not really. I don't think it's worth it for the 1. I'd rather play around the Tremaine than not. They might even sing with the Elsa here and then just play a couple of things, in which case then we're even in a worse spot probably. Like if they steal the tempo back even further with a song line with Elsa, then that's really bad. Honestly, our best case scenario is that they just attack with Elsa and then try to play something else. So we can even hit it with the Maui. Like they might just bounce it and replay it. Or play a goat and like start doing the goat stuff to kill us. They bounce it. They're likely going to bounce and replay it then. Hitting this and this probably, or this and this. Because if we trade this, that's fine, I think. So you do the 3-3. It's the same card. Okay. The top of our deck, bro, is just fucking dog water. I don't know what I can even do here. I have to draw Be Prepared, I guess, off of this rabbit. I believe that I inked a Teeth. So I don't have triple Teeth as an option either. Can I even play triple Teeth? I guess I could sing one of them. I mean, I guess we have to draw towards it as a line, right? Like, my cards just don't have text on them. So I guess we're dead to the Elsa then. Like, even if we double teeth this and kill this, they still go to 17 off the Elsa alone. And then we're dead to just goat bounce. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the only line we've got. I guess I could have quest with that. It doesn't really matter. If they have a single goat in hand or double goat, we're just straight dead. That's really unfortunate. I don't even think that we're an underdog in this matchup. I think it's probably pretty close to 50-50. Maybe because of the spellbooks, we're a little bit of an underdog here. Assuming that they ever draw them. Yeah. You can draw Ursula. Okay. Well, there's a goat, so we're dead. I'm surprised they didn't just do that last turn. Like, that just kills us. I don't know what we're supposed to do. GG. Such is life. We'll take our third or fourth or whatever. We did the best we could with the deck that we had. With, like, cards that we really needed in those spots were things like Be Prepared. You know, not having a Be Prepared to interact with that is rough. Having an Elsa or even a Maleficent in that spot would have done a little bit more. I mean, not having, say, additional Ursulas or even like the Lady Tremaines to take advantage of some of the bounce that we did have was really brutal, because we couldn't do anything against just playing an Elsa and saying go. We just had no response to it whatsoever, which is unusual for a deck like this, especially with the number of cards that we had drawn. We'd gone through more than half of our deck not seeing any Elsa. We saw 2 Ursulas. We'd gone through all 4 of our friends on the other side already at that point. Even Maleficent on that turn would have been better, or the turn before. Like, that would have been an answer. Even if not a great answer. Like, they had gained so much lore early on from the mini surfers to us just not having an answer to it in any of the... All of the games that we played against Neverlander here, all of the games in this particular matchup, were rough. Like, they had Mini Surfer and we just never had an answer for it at all. So, in any of the games that we played, they just had one that quested for 6 or 8 each game that we played against them. Like, we just never had Fidget in a spot where it would be good. Maybe we should have been playing minis of our own just to open up Teeth as a line to be able to deal with them, and that's certainly possible. However, the games that we would have had it, like, they had Teeth a lot as well. So, I mean, it's good beats. I think Fidget was good today and yesterday, but I think Fidget is not necessarily the answer that we need for Mini going forward. I think something with a little bit of a bigger body so that it's not vulnerable to Teeth. Like, you can't really have a known quantity answer to a card, especially in such low quantities, that can be answered by main deck cards, right? So, why would we need to play for placing? I don't understand. That makes no sense. What? Why would we need to play again? It's based on breakers. What? Hello? Is the payout different for... It's 100 either way. Third, fourth is the same position. I'm so confused. I guess they want us to play another round. I mean, I'm fine with it. I'll play against No I'm Not with this deck, I suppose. No I'm Not lost to the blue steel, it looks like. Okay, well, whatever. We battle again. Fair enough. I guess we'll battle another one. I tried to win it all, but we lost against somebody who had the same tech that we did and drew better, so... You know, no shame in that, right? We had the fidget tech, so did they. They drew the surfers, we didn't draw our fidget tech. And since they knew about it as well, they kept teeth most of the time. And would have been able to play around it anyway. Such is life. Such is life. Whatever, we battle. So we update this then. Miso 2, user bracket, I guess. We get rid of Ursula. We're going second, unfortunately. This draw is fine. We have the fidget that we can try and work with. Oh my god, fucking get the hell out of here. I don't know if we even play the 1-drop, since we don't have anything to bounce with it. We could just ink it here. Let's ink this first, I guess. If we play this, it's just going to stay in play forever. Which is fine, but we can hold off on it. I think the deck is fine. I think these probably need to have some adjustment, maybe to Jetsams or whatever. But I do think that the deck itself is still fine in the metagame. So they likely have teeth here. I think I'm going to run out a Minnie Mouse first. Nah, I mean, I guess if we have the fidget, we just run out the fidget, right? Like, that's the play. The whole point of fidget is that it's good against this spot, and if it's not good here, then it's just bad in general. Like, if we're going to be adding fidget to the deck, like, this is the spot to add it. Yeah, so they do have the teeth and ambitions that they ripped off the top. Well, that's that then, I guess. Like, this is what I'm saying about the card not actually being that good in the metagame once it's a known quantity. As sort of a surprise to it, sure. But once people are aware of it, then it's just much worse by such a degree that it's almost indescribable. Because they don't have to adjust to their deck to it, right? Because you could just be playing the same cards that you were playing before. Like the exact same stuff. And then answer the thing that is like what interacts with the thing, the cards that they're playing, makes it pretty brutal. I should clear both of these. I can teeth the mini by attacking it with my mini. Then I can't clear both of the things. I can hit here and clear the rabbit. Am I supposed to just draw with the rabbit? What am I drawing into? No, I don't think that makes sense. I think I am supposed to play Maui. And do this. This. And then say go. Yeah, I don't love it. This game is going about as badly as the last one did. This is what I'm saying, or what I've been saying about Fidget is it's a good card in general. We decide to Maui our Maui. Okay. Like, it is a good card in general, but if it's known, like if they know about it, then it can struggle a little bit to really be super functional. I really wish I had another Inkable. It's like too late for us to do this, but I don't really see much of an alternative right now. We're buried, essentially. And like now we don't get to draw any cards either, just to deal with this. Because I think that we have to play Tremaine. Unfortunate. I mean, we were on the draw, which happens. We played the card that we had teched in as the answer for it, and they kept a teeth in their hand to deal with that. So, we have done the best that we can with the resources that we had for this tournament. But once the deck list is known, it's obviously a lot worse. Like, they're just gonna rabbit us to death. This is all just chip damage until they eventually goat us. Because we're gonna have to deal with this, and they don't have to deal with our board at all. We're just uninkable-less over here. A pretty rough game. I don't know how people were getting away with playing more uninkables. Like, we've been just getting hammered on not having enough. Even with our extra draws. So we made them B-prep, which is nice. But they're already at 15, which makes it very difficult to beat what they're doing. As we can't Ursula with something, so Tremaine is still very good against us. Because we're literally 3 ink behind, which is impossible to deal with here. Like, we don't have a way of dealing with just, like, play 2 rabbits, ink a thing. Is that all their snakes? No, they've just been snake rabbiting us to death. Which is very viable in this particular metagame. If they have a goat, we just lose to it either way. We can play an Ursula and just play around Tremaine, I guess. Ursula us, just to draw more cards. Like, every play that they're making over there is specifically with the intent of just digging deeper into the deck, because they're at such high lore that any goats and foxes at this point that they have just lead directly to lethal. Like, they don't need to do more questing, really. Like, that is entirely unnecessary at this point. Again, I was saying it earlier, there are some draws that that blue steel can have with the whole new world, where like you just have 3v prepareds in your hand. Like, if I get wheeled with this hand, like, how do I beat the blue steel deck, right? Because it doesn't matter what threats they're presenting if I have no safety valve to catch back up. Because they'll just play a bunch of 2 lore things, and then you don't have any be prepared. So there's just hands like this that sometimes you just get blasted by wheel decks, and then that's not unique to just blue steel. That's most of the blue steel decks. I can't let them quest. I have to be prepared here. We can at least sing it, draw our card, and then decide what we're gonna do. Yeah. We don't even get to draw cards, right? Because we're behind. We're dead to the Tremaines in their hand. Like, these 3 cards are just be prepareds and Tremaines. For goats or whatever. Looks like we're pretty dead, though. Haymaker guy? Which one are you talking about? Which guy? Maleficent Dragon. Conveniently, there's not that many Mim snakes left. They could still fox it and bounce it back, though. Only having 8 ink is making this game incredibly difficult. Like the one spell a turn is just not it. I don't think that there's a world where you can like just cast Be Prepared here and say go. I just don't think you're ever winning that game either. But doing Ursula Pass also isn't good. I think that's what we have to do. We're at the point where they can just double Tremaine or just double Goat. If they just kill us here, that's fine. We'll just go next. They don't have any snakes, but they should still have some foxes. They could have 1 snake. If they get us this game, we'll just go next. It's fine. Okay. Go next. Hello? Can you let me out of the game, please? That needs to be fixed. I don't know why the concede action doesn't interrupt, like, doing other stuff. It's very strange. It's like it goes on the stack. Concede should be instant and just end all things. I would assume that blue steel lost to a deck like this. Like this list isn't generally super favored into something like that. Yeesh. Okay. I guess I Olaf. I don't think I can Olaf. Do I have to ink the Olaf? No. I have to not play the Olaf because of the Elsa on the play. I think I'm gonna have to use this as ink this game, I think. If I had a snake, I would play it, but in theory it's not really that needed in this matchup anyway. I'm probably in the market to ink one of the foxes to play the sorceress, if we draw nothing else. That's some pretty mediocre draws in the last handful of games here. Okay. Luckily we have this this rabbit here. Yeah, I don't know how you can get away with playing more uninkables. They're playing less, which I think is generally good. Yep. Card is very good in the mirror. I think we drew one, but it's a little late. We're just not going to be able to win the race with the mini surfer here. Okay, I think it's gonna get us for 6, but we literally the mini surfer doesn't help us there. Like we have to play it on 3. We no longer have the play advantage anymore. We have lost the play advantage, which is unfortunate. Such is life. Like, they had a 1, 2, 3, 4 line, which is generally pretty good against what we're doing over here. I think we inked this, play a Cusco, and I think I have to bash the Mim. Unfortunately. Another rabbit. We go to 7. So they did have the crab. Okay. They should be streaming the finals after this is done, yeah. Don't worry, this won't take that long. It's an awful lot of rabbits. I would assume he's gonna snake one of them. Given that he played this one. Opts not to snake one. Okay, I guess we're in the control world now. We'll draw our 3 cards, and then we'll see what we're working with. Tremaine can be good, depending upon what they play. Like, we have so many Be Prepareds, I think I have to kill it that way. Just let them draw 3 cards. Wish they weren't at 11, though. 11 is a rough number for us. We do have a line of running Olaf out with Ursula, which is good. If they just play Ursula, then that's good for us, since we do have the Tremaine. I think I ink the Maui, play the Olaf and pass. We play another Ursula. Into a Minnie Mouse. It's fine, we ink the goat. We mal this thing. Do I quest here? I can quest with Tremaine. There's sort of 2 answers that they can have to this board. If they have a Tremaine, then they could, like, Fox the Minnie Mouse. I guess we could have quested with Olaf too here then, because they couldn't deal with both, and also play Tremaine. Yeah, maybe that would have been fine. Could have gotten an extra one. I was assuming, like, Fox and Maui or something, which then would have allowed them to clear both of these, but then we'd still have the Maleficent in play. So they're not entirely out of draw, but most of their draw is gone, since 3 of their rabbits are gone. Depending upon how they choose to try and interact with this board, this Elsa could be pretty favorable for us. Like if they try to combat directly some of the things that we're doing, or just go a little bit wide, we can force a B prep if we want. I'm not sure that we want that, the Be Prepared, but we can clean up things with the Elsa if we are in a spot where that's necessary. I kind of want to run out this rabbit, since the rest of the cards in our hand are a little awkward. This is a Be Prepared line. Be Prepared is good against us here, because we don't have something else to play with our Ursula, unfortunately. That's actually a good draw, because now we can just play a bunch of rabbits. An Inkable. That's fine. I would have liked that to play with these, but I think we need the ink more. We'll get other draws from the Merlins. Double Rabbit is good in this spot. A single Maleficent. Okay, lets us draw a card. Could be ink, I suppose. Alright. Is this a spot where we should be Elsa-ing? Potentially. Elsa to bait out more interaction from our opponent. Elsa plus mini, maybe, or Elsa no attack is also fine. I think it's Elsa mini, and then we also attack. I assume that their hand is just a bunch of Tremaines. I'm gonna do this. If they've been bombing just straight with Maleficent this long, like just a raw Maleficent at least, I'd like to keep making the Tremaines really awkward. And if they opt to double Tremaine, then we can just blow up the board, play an Ursula. The third Tremaine will be problematic, but I know that they have a lot of them, so... Our hand isn't good. Playing this Minnie Mouse does leave us in a weird spot where we may just get blown out by the Tremaines anyway, depending upon what the Merlin draws, but this plays around them for now. Bounces the Maleficent, sure. Blowing up this board leaves us so open to trouble from the other side, I think, but it almost feels like we need to, and then just not play an Ursula, like we get the 3 lore from this instead. Since we don't have a way to protect the Ursulas. If we do this, and then just try to play around the Tremaines a little bit, and if they go pretty wide, we'll just be prep again. That'll gain them to 15. They still have not played B-preps. Let's play an Ursula. Bounce the Ursula, play Fidget. Or we can do this. It's sort of like bounce the Ursula, play Fidget. It's kind of weird though. Kind of wanted to get to 14, but I need to keep the mini for right now. This at least gives me a way of dealing with what they've got on the board if they just quest straight up. many of our B preps have we used? 1, 2, this would be our third one. If I play this, then they get value out of their Tremaine. Which they're probably looking to do anyway. I don't think I need it. I'd rather have the ability to double spell. Which could be a big mistake here. But it feels okay to me. This is fine. This plays around double Tremaine as well. Okay, they B prep. Teeth is not useful, but we'll maybe hold on to it for now. We don't really need more ink than what we have. Ursula, how many B preps? Still one. I don't really need this fidget, but I might want that teeth. This might be their window to start Tremaining here, because they can double Tremaine and deal with the Ursula. If they shift the Tremaine, that's really good for us. If they decide to go wide with it, then that's a little less good, of course. I would like to Elsa. We can Elsa Maui. This is 8. This would be 16. We can put the Elsa back into our hand. Maui, we bash here. And then we do this. Bouncing the Elsa. To kill all the Tremaines. Hopefully we can actually close the game before we draw our whole deck. That's getting to be a little bit more dubious. But we potentially can. He says he draws another, like, 3 cards. Okay, there's a goat. I'm just going to play the Olaf and then say go. We don't actually have to ink anymore. 16 is more than sufficient to do any of the weird combos that we would want. 1, 2, 3, and we inked 1. So most of our bounce we still have. So we go goat, bounce. Then I think we just play Maui, weirdly. And pass. 1, 2, 3. So used all of their draw earlier, so their hands are pretty awkward. Obviously, if they double Tremaine us, I should have sacked the Mim Fox, actually. That might have been an error. Turned out to not be that big of a deal. So they still have 1 B prep, right? potentially. And 1 Tremaine left. With this Maui, I think we just say go. Actually, I can play the goat, right? No, I need to keep the goat for our other bounces. So once the last B prep comes out, we just barf all this out. And then we can hopefully close with the goat. Ink Teeth to go to 13. So now I think we do quest with these. Play goat. Bounce the goat. Play the goat and pass. I think we managed to claw it out in this one. Unless they have another Ursula, which they could. Is it all Mauis all the time? Nice. All Mauis all the time. Those don't really have text in that spot. Alright, this is our last game of this event here. We are currently 1-1 in our losers bracket, playing to see who gets third. We get rid of these. I can get rid of the Kuzco here as well, so we can try to dig for Fidget a little bit deeper. So we didn't hit Fidget this time. If they have a very aggressive Surfer line, this draw is going to be a little tough, I think. I'm going to hold on to the 1 Teeth, specifically right this moment, because it can potentially give us another avenue of, if we draw Surfer, to interact. So they inked a Crab. I think we ink this Kuzco. We could have inked the Maleficent here as well, but I was sort of holding out hope that we may get to that point in this game, given how the last one went. Because they have so many Tremaines, I may end up having to keep the mini. So there goes a Teeth. So if we do have Fidgets, we can potentially just run them out. Given that, I almost want to just kill this Maleficent with this Teeth then. These games are very weird, and that's sometimes what they come down to. Is like the ability to sing friends. So let's do this. Sing Teeth, put damage here, here. And then we do this. And then pass. Alright, they play a rabbit, that makes sense. Alright, so we have our own friends on the other side. We don't have a rabbit currently, so I think it's worth just doing this. Double Maui, huh? Okay, let's ink a Maui here. We'll quest for 1 and pass. We may lose our board here, which I think is fine. If they hit here in Maui, that's a little annoying, but that's kind of their whole turn too. Since neither of these are rabbits, I don't care as much if they're alive or dead. Makes them use their whole turn 5 on doing that. We can then Maui the Merlin rabbit as well. Which I think is okay, generally. They may also just Fox the rabbit to draw more cards. Which I think would be acceptable as well. They snake it, sure. Also is a reasonable line here. Would not surprise me if they play like another Maleficent. It's another Fox that's gone away. They're just friends on the other side to draw cards. So this in general is just not going to be a terribly fast game. I think we don't quest with this anymore. Unless our intention is to, like, untap it with the Fox. Like, our opponent could easily just have Tremaine next turn. What's my alternative? Like, what other play am I making then? With such an awkward draw. Could just play Maui. Is that even a thing I want to do? I've already friendsed twice. We have to ink here for sure. I'd like to hold this if I can. Which means that I guess it's the Maui. And then we can do this. We can Fox it, and then just snake it. And just pay 5 to untap it, I guess. And if they Tremaine here, it's fine. No, they're looking to just draw more cards, which makes sense to me. We are going to need more Inkables, given what our hand is. We'll probably send the Fox to the bin if we have to, and just be fine with it. They could bounce their snake and then untap it, kind of like I just did, or just play a little wider. I think that's fine too. I think teeth makes sense. Does make fidgets a little more viable. We could kind of try to force... We could try to force some action from our opponent by playing the Minnie Mouse of our own. That could be interesting, actually. What if we get in for one, bounce it, ink the snake, and play these two out? What does that look like? Not awesome, but not terrible. I think we have to ink that though. I don't think I'm bashing here because I don't want the Tremaines to be able to just kill my shit for free. We're still a couple turns away from the dragon. And if they B-prep this, like, that's pretty favorable for us, I think. Though we don't really have much of a follow-up play until turn 8. So ideally, if we get to untap, we can just play Ursula. And then on 8, we can do this. Okay, they played an Ursula. That's a little awkward. We'll see what they do. If I can bully this with Tremaine, I don't think I can. I may just have to Ursula it myself. Like, just counter this with an Ursula. We can kill the rabbit. Then if they attack back and kill the fox, and they Tremaine, I have to choose between one of these. I'll just do this. It's weird that I'm talking about Tremaine so much, but I know that the list that No I'm Not is running is very Tremaine heavy. And in that sort of world, you kind of need to be cognizant of that, because if they get a lot of value out of their Tremaines, then it's pretty backbreaking. So now they have to decide if they want to sing with Ursula to B-prep their own Ursula here, to deal with just this little board that we have, or what they want to do. Okay, so they do sing B-prep. So we did manage to bait that out with the one Ursula. So they draw a card, we'll see what they play. If they don't have a 1-drop as follow-up with this, then this is pretty good for us. If they do have the 1-drop to follow up, then it's a little worse. Okay, so they did. So then I think our play is we run out Ursula. Since they don't have infinite ink, like one quest turn is not the end of the world. We get rid of Teeth and Ambitions, and then we play the mini and pass. And then if they play another like Haymaker, we can be prepared. Depending, we'll have to see what the play is. So they go for another Ursula. So in theory, we have the ability to deal with 2 Ursulas then, with this single Be Prepared, which is pretty good. Alternatively, we can also just Elsa and tap them, but we don't actually have an incredible follow-up to our opponent be prepping our board, which is something to think about. But if we be prep here, we also don't have... What do we play? A Merlin and a Goat or whatever? Play a Rabbit out. I mean, it's not terrible playing these 2 things. And we get to kill 2 Ursulas, and they don't get to bounce them. And we get to keep the Elsa in hand. Yeah, I've sort of talked myself into it. Just the tempo is too strong. And 2 Ursulas is a good hit here, just in general. I think it's this. And then I guess I ink a Maui, because I need the ink. How many rabbits have we had? That is our first rabbit. So that explains why we have so few cards to work with this turn. So there's a rabbit, and then we'll see if they play something else large. It is a goat. Okay. They have be-prepped once, and they've used all of their Ursulas, I believe. I think they're only playing the 3. Looking at this board... This could be an Elsa line. But I think it's just an Ursula to draw a card here. Now we can ink Maui. Then pass. I don't think that this necessarily needs to be a race. Going to 8 is not the end of the world here, and they have to do something to this Ursula. So we may as well protect it with some bodies. If we play any one of these, they're almost certainly going to have to answer. If they attack with the goat, we'll probably try to Tremaine the Maleficent then. Just leaves us open to Tremaine ourselves. We'll see if we draw a cheap card. Fox is a good one. Because then we can keep the goat alive. Do we want to bounce the goat or the rabbit? I think we need to bounce the rabbit. We clear both of these, and then we get the Maleficent, so we can keep the goat alive here, I think. Over the fox. Yeah. Because then we have the option to bounce it later as well. So then we want to quest with this. We fox. We bounce this to hand. Bash here. Play Tremaine. Unfortunately, we don't get to keep the other Tremaine. Like, if they deal with this, we don't get the second one, and we don't get to ink here, but I think this line is still fine. So if they Tremaine, we sack the goat. They can't blast both of these with Tremaines. Conveniently. They could just play an Ursula or something here too. Okay, so they play a Tremaine. That makes sense. And if we draw another fox here, or a snake, that would be very good. Let's play this rabbit. And this Maleficent. Let's ink Cuzco. And just play this and then quest here. And say go. Because then, like, B prep is not awesome on this board, because, like, they have the Tremaine. We've only played a couple of threats. But this forces them to kind of have to make a choice and do it. And then we can follow it up with something here. Hopefully they play a card, like a Surfer, so we can Tremaine it. I think we're almost out of Ursulas. We are out of Ursulas. -1 left in the deck. Alright, that's really good for us then. It's less good for us, but we can manage that too. What's our best way of dealing with that? This, I suppose. 9, 10, 11, 12. So we need to ink one of these if we do this Maleficent Dragon play. It's fine. We'll play Maleficent Dragon. Pop this. We'll ink Fidget. Okay, Surfer pass. Still on 2B preps. Yeah. We have only used 1B prep. Have we gone through more than one rabbit? No. So we still have a decent amount of draw outside of Ursula's in there. We have 2 friends. Plus the other stuff. Weirdly, I think I'm going to keep the mini. Obviously, if they just play another Tremaine, it's, like, pretty rough here, but... like, this can still quest, and the other one can't. So they play a Surfer, that's fine. We can Tremaine and kill one of these. And we can kill this. I guess if we Tremaine, they're just going to hit this. What if we quest here? Play Elsa. Tapping these 2. Do we even bother with the Fox then? I don't think we have to. I think we make them do something with this. Though I don't love our position here. Because we don't have, like, a better answer. And this left our Elsa a little vulnerable. We were a little weak to this anyway here. That will do pretty well. So 1 Tremaine, 2 Tremaine. How many Tremaines was he running? This is important, unfortunately. I don't like looking this stuff up. So it's the full 4 Tremaines. Kind of what I thought. So they probably have more Tremaines in there. So then, like, the follow-up play is a lot less relevant. We just quest here and blast it. And then say go. I was considering, like, bouncing it and seeing if I could replay it, but it doesn't really... it doesn't really do anything. Oh no, that's a disaster for us. Rabbit's really good here. Just means that they get to draw a bunch of cards in a spot where we're not able to do that. Uh-oh. We are in a bad spot here. 6 cards to none. Guess we have to do this. Don't really have much of a choice. Feel like we have to bounce it too, and then just play the Olaf. Like, our hand is face up now, so I think they've got us. This comes down to how many rabbits we got to play. We have 1 rabbit in the discard, which means that we've played 1. There's 1, 2, 3 rabbits from our opponent. So they've drawn an extra 8 cards on us here. Which is a pretty big problem. We know that they have a fox. Which can bounce this Maleficent over and over forever, which is a problem. Or if they just have a goat, like, we can't really let them untap with this. Just have to hold this Olaf, I think. It's all but... We still have 1 B prep left in there. And we're getting buried on cards. There's a goat. They're going to bounce the goat back, and then they're just going to burn us out with this. We still don't have enough cards to deal with it. We tried. If we ripped Ursula here into something, we had a chance, but it looks like we're dead here. Alright, they got us. GG. There were some lines where we can win with, like... It's tough. We needed to have rabbits, like... Bummer. It's fine. We'll take 4th. Pretty happy with that overall. Okay, so let's look at the deck one more time here, and then we'll call it a day. So we've got a pretty controlling deck that also includes some Elsas, and 16 Uninkables. I think the 6/1 drops and 3 Cuscos were fine. I wasn't really fussed one way or the other about running just 3 Teeth and Ambitions. We have the normal Snake plus this, plus the Mim, Maleficent, and then the Merlins and the Rabbits. Like, I think this whole package pretty much just should be 4 ofs. Sometimes the Maleficent can be shaved 1, but I felt like we wanted the draw with how top-heavy our deck was. We have the Surfers, the full set of Mauis, and only 2 Maleficents. These are sort of your big inkable cards, and generally I think Maui is favored just because it's cheaper, so a lot of times you can interact more early, and you only really want 1 Maleficent Dragon later that can sometimes be bounced. But a lot of times these end up in the Inkwell. Fidget was our sort of anti-Surfer mini tech, which was a lot worse in the top 8 than I would have liked it to be. It was pretty good leading up to that, but once this tech was known, especially in the mirrors, it was very easy with the already included Teeth and Ambitions, generally just to if you have a Surfer draw, you just hold a Teeth, and then I play the Fidget, and then it gets blasted, and that's what happened in game 1. We did fight against an opponent that was running a Teethless deck, where the Fidget was very good, and we were able to leverage it pretty well, so it was still a good card for us, and it won quite a few games leading up to the top 8. But once this tech is known, I think it's likely going to have to go and be upgraded to something like, say, Jetsam as a 3/3 for 4 with evasive, or even possibly Pongo, though Pongo, sorry, not Pongo, Goofy at the 5-drop slot, or some combination of those two to play a little bit of like a bigger evasives to be able to combat the mini surfers, because this is pretty much what we were losing to all day. That and not always drawing rabbits. I mean, this is just the most important card in the deck. When we had the rabbit with no ability to, say, bounce it back and get multiple draws with it, when we only drew 1 rabbit, we were just pretty low on cards. We kept up pretty well, ripping random Beaver pairs and trying to play around the Tremaine, but if your opponent has 3 rabbits and they've bounced them a couple times and you haven't, we died like 10 cards down on our opponent. In a pretty close mirror match, that's just too many. Even though we were able to play a bunch of Ursulas that also draw cards, I just don't think that that's enough on its own. Thanks, Sanjan. Appreciate the resub. Yeah, I think you do have to hit these if you're not doing like a really aggressive strat, because once you get to the late game, it's difficult to try and play around something like Tremaine. It's difficult to try and play around your opponent's Maleficence, or even just getting close enough to be able to goat you when you're only doing 1 spell a turn and you are not inking up to a high enough number to be able to play 2 big spells in a turn. So, yeah, I was happy with the Cuscos. I think these are very good here. This number could even be like you shave another 1-drop and play a Cusco. That could be played around with as well. But I do think that you probably need something a little larger on the interacting with Surfer Mini front. So, yeah, happy with the uninkable numbers. 4 Ursula is great. Be prepared. Rabbit. And then I think 16 is good. I think Elsa was great. And I think 2 Lady Tremaines was plenty. I don't know if I would ever want to go down to 1, because having the ability to sometimes shift onto it and then bounce it back to your hand is incredibly strong. And locking yourself out of that line, I think, is not ideal. Especially because this is usually pretty good against some of the more tricky, like, big mana matchups, like perhaps Blue Steel or whatever. So, overall, I think pretty fun. I am happy with my top 4, so I get 4th place. Not too bad. Especially for a nearly 300-person tournament at 282. And I think I'm going to call it a weekend, and then we'll try again following testing some of these other decks next week. So I think we're going to send you back over to Thea here. And then you can watch the finals or whatever that looks like, if they're still doing that. And then I'll see everybody next time.